What's up, guys? Will and Chris back with another weekly Beluga Podcast episode where we waste our lives on crypto Twitter and in the trenches so that you don't have to. As always, we'll start out with a little discussion on the majors. It was I feel like I've said this in like most intros for the last couple weeks, but we had a rough week. Yesterday was kind of the big downwards move where Bitcoin just absolutely nuked off the. I think it was mostly off the back of the Nvidia
NVIDIA
news.
stuff. Yep, I think so too. Yeah, it was basically NVIDIA, right? They got a subpoena. Of course, shout out to one of the greatest traders on the planet, Nancy Pelosi, who had managed to dump her NVIDIA bag right before, so she got out fine. But NVIDIA tanked. It's down 10%, I think, something like that.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
market just nuked alongside it.
It was
So
down
yeah,
something like 10% during market hours, and then they
it
released the
dumped even
news, I
more.
think, after market hours, and it dumped even more.
Oh man, okay.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you see the dumping action before any kind of news actually gets announced. Like somebody knew something.
Yep, 100%. And that's somebody's Nancy.
That
Um,
somebody's Nancy Pelosi.
just an absolute legend. But yeah, sorry, I forgot to pull it up. Yeah, this is what we're looking at
All
here. So
good.
BTC here. Yeah, if we look on the daily here, I mean, just has not looked good, right? Last week
Yeah, I
was
mean, we just
here.
went right to the bottom of this freaking range we've been stuck in since basically end of April.
Yep, it's been the same like horrible trend. This is what, yeah, February is when we first broke through the range. We've just been chopping up and down here. Just an awful feeling.
Yeah, I'd love
But
to hear what you think. I saw if anybody watching knows who Jez is on Twitter, works at Standard Crypto and pretty smart trader, said that he thinks that we will be chopping through the rest of next year too. So I think
yep.
I think if that happens, I might have to leave the space myself. I don't know if I can take another year of this, but yeah, where do you think we're going, Chris?
I don't know, honestly. I go back and forth. Sometimes I'm like, it's going to be fine. And maybe it's because I'm just mentally completely gone at this point, and I just don't know how to think anymore, because it's certainly possible. I think, and maybe I'm just holding on to the last vestiges of like potential bull market stuff. It doesn't feel great though. I'll give you that. I think it doesn't look very good. It just feels bad in general. It's been chopping very poorly for a while. It just doesn't feel like it feels like there's no inflows, there's no activities, no volume. And so it doesn't feel great. I still hold out hope, and I would say my like confidence levels decreases week by week, but I'm still definitely in the positive in thinking that we are going to have a good Q4, and maybe closer to the end of Q4, truthfully, rather than the beginning. But and there's a couple big ifs. It's several nested ifs, I guess. And then we hit from there. But I think the rate cuts are for sure happening. But I think it's going to dump after. Like I think we're sort of like a little bit too priced on the rate cuts, and so I think it's going to go down for a little bit, and then we're really dependent on Trump, and Kamala, and see what happens with that whole thing, and the posture CZ takes after too, when he comes back. So it's just unclear to me what's going to happen there. I think if I were to put my money in there, I think we still have the same price action I talked about before, which is if you follow last year, the exact same thing happened, right? September's always a bad month post Labor Day, right? It's just like down only. It just doesn't feel great, and people are selling. And then October, especially last year, basically that's the week last week was September, October happened. It started to rip again, and we just wanted an insane run. I mean, I looked at this. I was showing some friends like not that long ago, but if we zoom out like in a major way, you can see my really retarded lines here. But let's see. Um, if you look here, right, we can see this is October of last year, right here, right? So end of 14, 15. So this is when it started, end of September, right? We just kind of dumped here from August 18th down, just chopping in this range. And then right around the end of September, early October, we started to just absolutely go up and just rip. So I still think we're looking good, and I think we follow that path. It may be slightly delayed, and I don't think it's going to have this velocity. It's not going to have this take on it. So we'll see. But I'm still overall positive. But I'm sitting on my hands.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, it feels like there's two big kinds of capitulation, price-based and time-based. we are heavy in the time-based capitulation zone. If even Chris and I are, getting a little nervous, that's how you know it's hitting everybody. And I
Yep,
think, yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I think like I'm still quite bullish because I cannot imagine that this was the entire cycle that we had. I think so many real exciting use cases and applications that just like have not caught on yet. And I think this was actually another tweet from Jez, but um, what we saw with the huge price appreciation last cycle was that it wasn't until we got like a real kind of killer app where a lot of retail was getting onboarded and there was crazy liquidity throughout the market that things could actually enter price discovery. And the reality is we haven't had a lot of new people entering outside of the ETFs, and
agreed.
now we're seeing yesterday was the biggest outflows in the Bitcoin ETFs in 4 months. And yeah, volume across the market is quite low. Liquidity is very, very thin. I think we're still honestly feeling the repercussions from after FTX collapsed and all our market makers got wiped out. So I don't know. It's just going to take time. We need more liquidity in the market. I think really it comes down to that. Until that happens, people's stops can just be hunted over and over, and that's kind of what we've been seeing. I mean,
100%.
basically everybody trading on leverage has been getting wiped out.
Yeah,
Um,
and relentlessly, and people are still doing it for some odd reason. I don't really understand why you would
yeah.
take out a $60 million long position right now, but some people are doing it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean that's BTC. I mean ETH is not looking much better. About the same, just awful. Sol's
Yep.
having a better day, I guess,
Although I
but
guess
still.
kind of changing topics, but on the subject of ETH, we got some more info on Trump's upcoming high yield investment product, which is how they tag it on the site. But it appears to be basically either a fork of Aave, which I really hope they're not doing for a number of reasons, but it seems like it's basically a front end for this big DeFi platform called Aave, which actually we talked about on the podcast a couple weeks ago as a token to buy.
Yep,
But yeah,
which has gone
they're
pretty well. Which has gone
yeah, yeah,
really
yeah. No,
well.
it's
I mean,
gone well.
Aave,
I think our price on the Beluga trading wallet was like $95, $96.
not bad.
Not bad.
You basically got this whole run up right here.
Yep.
Not
It
bad
was
at
good
all.
timing.
It's been one of
Yeah,
the
it's funny.
strongest for sure.
I
Like,
I
I mean,
mean,
just
yeah,
taking a look.
I would be lying if I said that I knew this Trump news was coming. That was not why I bought, but we'll certainly take it. I mean, this has been a beautiful pump in an entire market of weakness today. Um, I mean, yeah, I've been saying, as we saw with the little Bitcoin bounce, maybe what 2 weeks ago, and some of the Dino coins, the DeFi coins stuff from last cycle started outperforming. I think the market just feels so bored with meme coins right now and all those like stupid shenanigans we had going on for so long that I think it's yearning for some kind of real yield. Actually, I mean, you probably have a great opinion on this subject, but I think that's kind of the transition we're seeing, especially with say what you will about the protocol itself, but especially with Trump launching a DeFi protocol that's based around real yield, basically. I think he said like the plan is to spread US pegged stablecoins, which like I don't know if he didn't know that that was basically the only thing that anybody uses in crypto already, but
Right.
I respect the ethos. But yeah, I think that's going to bring a lot of attention to not only the Ethereum ecosystem again, because whatever happens, it's going to draw a ton of liquidity to it. But people also just start paying attention to stuff with real yield again. It's been
I
so
agree.
long since I mean DeFi caught any love. I think this is a positive for those tokens.
I think so too. I mean, we went straight to cynicism this cycle, right? Which is just pure gambling. Whereas last time it was gambling with a sense that there was potentially something real, which is like,
Yeah.
real yields. Right? Well, last time, like, it's DeFi 1.0, right? It's Uni, it's Maker, it's Aave, it's things that sort of have a quote unquote business model that can actually make
Yeah.
cash, right? And you're just, and even DYDX, right? It was like, hey, look, DYDX prints cash, and it's maybe the token's worth something, right? You have fee switch and things like that. So like that was last cycle. Like I think you said, we haven't seen any of it yet, right? And so we'll see how it goes. And I know that was your call a while ago, so we'll see if it plans. We'll see if it pans out. But yeah, I think. Um, I'm cautiously optimistic still, and I think it's all trending the right way. Basically, I think the signs continue to look right, right, and and then more things come up that sort of lead you to believe that the narrative and the sort of like positioning into Q4 is correct. And then you look at price, and it's like, well, still bad. So,
Yeah, exactly.
so that was what gets me nervous because if this stuff doesn't make it pump, then that's actually maybe really bad. So anyway, that's the fear, but it is hilarious, and of course, like in classic Trump fashion, um, it turns out like the team behind this is I didn't actually read this thing. Do you know what's going on? But apparently, it's part
Yeah,
of it's like
yeah,
some scammer,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, so do you remember Doe Finance?
I don't
I
know. Don't
only
know finance.
vaguely remembered it, but they had like kind of a suspicious exploit for about 2 mil a couple months ago, I think. And turns out that two of the guys who are running this Trump project were the leads for that project, which, a lot of shit gets hacked in crypto. It's not necessarily a huge red flag, but like it is something. And in light of the fact that another one of them also founded Date Hotter Girls LLC, I think people are a little bit suspicious about the team that he's put together for this one.
Right.
The good news is if they are, like I said before, if they're not actually forking Aave to like, basically the point being that if they're not responsible for the security of a protocol like Aave, which is not only quite complicated but has been exploited before.
Yep.
Um, if they're just controlling the front end, that's a lot less risk on them. And I hope that is the case because, I mean, we saw today they announced it in their Telegram, but two members of the Trump family had their Instagrams hacked already. So, like, that just doesn't give us a lot of confidence in their security
Jeez,
practices. They can't lock down a Twitter account.
I did
How are
not
they
know
going to
that.
lock down a platform storing billions of dollars? I did see there was some kind of leaked info that it looks like they are doing a token pre-sale, which they're saying, by the way, is non-transferable, which, just to avoid security concerns. But they're doing a pre-sale, it looks like, at like a $1.8 billion FTV. Um,
Is
so
that
we'll see how
real?
this all goes. I don't know if it's verified, but it seemed real.
Lol,
Pretty
is this
insane.
real too? I haven't seen this before.
Yep, this is real. Yep,
Oh man,
yep,
jeez,
unreal. It's actually like
hilarious.
it's unbelievable, and I don't understand. So I actually think I'm not a fan of Trump. I think unfortunately I'm probably voting for him, but uh, it's unbelievable to me that he would even risk his presidential reputation doing a protocol like this. I mean, look, like he can make a ton of money, and I actually think the core concept is not a bad idea, but to put together a team like this and do the whole pre-sale thing and do all of that, like what are you thinking,
Oh
man?
God, it smells wrong. The whole thing smells completely wrong.
Not
So
to mention his, four NFT projects, all the Trump family shit coins that launched this year, like yeah,
the
it just
Baron
feels
Shkreli
bad.
nonsense. There's just a lot
Yeah.
going on here. There's just a lot of history. Um, so we'll see. Yeah, we'll see
We'll
where it
see.
goes, man. But it is hilarious, though. It's just at the end of the day, if crypto is nothing more than a venue for entertainment, at least we've succeeded in that. It is hilarious just
It
watching,
sure is
throwing a bunch of
entertaining.
the dumbest people in the world into a permissionless environment where they can gamble and just like hilarious things happen. So that's the business we've chosen for some reason.
Yeah.
Um,
On the other side of the aisle, the SEC is not actually. I think this was the CFTC that went after
the
Uniswap.
CFTC. Yep.
But yeah, they are not quite as crypto friendly as Mr. Trump over there. Uniswap had to pay a small. I mean, honestly, like 175K. If you actually, can you pull up the token chart quickly? I was looking
Yeah,
at this earlier. It's
it just
hilarious.
knifed down and came
Well,
right
because the
back.
headline, yeah. So this was the first headline that came out that it was just they had issued the order. Um, yeah, you might need like the hour, yeah, the hour view or something. But this candle was just brutal. Because I
It's
so
right
it
here.
originally came out, nobody knew what the fine was. Yeah, right there.
It's this one. Yeah.
Nobody knew what the fine was, and then 2 minutes after it came out that it was like 175K. Who
And
cares?
just
Uniswap makes that
straight
in
back up.
probably a day. No big deal. Straight
Yep.
back up.
Nobody cares.
Nobody
That's
cares.
I mean, that's what I saw too. What is funny is like I literally saw the first thing. I was like, "Holy shit, that's not good." I
Yeah.
sent to a bunch of friends like, they're like, "Wow." And then the second tweet I sent, everyone's like, "Oh, it's 175 dude, we're good, man." Like, went straight back up. But it is just
Yeah.
funny to like hear, especially when you're talking about politics, with Trump like actually launching crypto scams, and maybe not a scam, who knows, but actually launching stuff like this, and
It's
the
a
other side just
grift. I
saying
think
they're going
saying
to
it's a
do stuff.
grift is like fair to
Yeah,
say.
okay, fine.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. Versus Kamala's like, and you can say this isn't her, but she's still part of the administration. They're like sending this kind of stuff out. It's just a very different posture and tone. So the people that are saying, "Oh, it's like crypto bros were calling," it's like, what are you thinking, dude?
Yeah.
Like there's no way. Now, if there's a broader spectrum of things that you think she was better at, that you want, like, that's an argument I'm fine for. Like I probably don't feel it, but like I get it. At least a reasonable argument. But to sort of say that, like, oh, it's probably fine, that she'll be pro crypto or helpful, is like, it's just obviously a ridiculous
Yeah.
statement.
Especially with all the tax stuff. I mean, that's just anti-markets in general.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
it's making it so difficult for people to vote for
I
her.
agree. I did like, yeah, and like I think they're trying to keep her quiet, and they failed a little bit here and there. But like every time she opens her mouth, her poly market stats just dip. So
Yeah,
uh,
she's trailing by like 6 percentage points again or something.
yeah, it's not good for her. But
Um,
yeah, she's down 5. Jeez,
yeah,
God bless, dude.
that's like the biggest lead in basically I think since she announced that she was running instead of Biden.
That's awesome. God bless, dude.
Um, yeah.
Oh God, but yeah, uni, more uni nonsense. Turns out nothing though. Big bag of nonsense.
Yep.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I guess yeah, we can get into some Solana conversation.
yeah. Let's say
Uh,
the only thing that happened is this thing this week, um,
this
which was
cartoon is so
hilarious.
funny, by the way. I always
Yeah.
laugh when it gets used on stuff.
But this is the one that sparked it, or was it Tolly?
Yeah,
I
it
can't
was. I think it
remember.
was Austin's.
Okay, this one, yeah. So I mean, I'll summarize it real quick. I only tangentially read it because I just don't. I just read this and I was like, okay, I'm just not going to get involved in this nonsense. But big picture, right? The knock on Ethereum and L2s, right? Ethereum's explicitly gone down this roll-up strategy, which means they believe and they understand that Ethereum is not going to scale to support the level of transactions and speed and throughput that's needed to really make this a singular network that people can use for all kinds of things. So we went to this roll-up strategy, right? And we run a roll-up, right? The idea is you can use Ethereum as base level security, right? And inherit the security of Ethereum. And then on top of it, build networks that are faster that still settle down to Ethereum, right? So this way you can scale through these roll-ups. And you have multiple different types of networks on top, but all use Ethereum as the underlying network, right? That's been the idea, right? And truthfully, L2s have been not bad. Arbitrum's fine, right? Base to Coinbase's has been an incredible success for them. I think. Blast has been pretty good. Like, so is the L2 story completely fleshed out and without its problems? No, of course not. Right? We've got centralized sequencers, a lot of stuff going on there. But big picture, the idea that we could scale Ethereum, bring down the price. I mean, the biggest meme of the last cycle was the $500 gas fees, right, to trade NFTs, right? And we remember that nonsense. And so, like, that's gone away largely, right, through the roll-up strategy, right? Now, there's good and bad about it, right? And we can get into that in a second. But the thing that the Solana community loves to troll us about, right, which is basically saying that at the end of the day, L2s are value destructive, or at least sort of like suck the value out of Ethereum because the value accrues to L2s instead of the L1. So ETH continues to get worse and worse and worse, and L2s are taking. And that's kind of like the story. And the thing that's always been surprising me is like, scaling naturally, like even Solana has scaling problems. So like, anyway, long story short, Austin here, who was at Solana, had this tweet that's saying, most of the L2 things on Solana, are really thought of as network extensions, right? While it might while it might resemble Ethereum L2s, the function is so radically different. I think you would be best served by thinking about it as a network extension. And it just got endlessly roasted after, because I mean they spend so much time shitting on ETH and L2s to then go into this, and this was like probably one of the more popular memes that came out of this. But I mean, Will, I know you probably got a bunch to say about this, so
Yeah,
I'll let you
well, I
loose.
mean, I don't like we. This is not the first time. The network extensions thing is new, but we've definitely talked about this on the podcast previously. That like to me, it seems pretty obvious that if you want to maintain a decentralized layer one, you can't adopt the monolithic design because you just can't like withstand that kind of scale. If you look at something that's like 2 3 sequencers or whatever, like, oh yeah, you can run that thing like Visa's payments network basically. But when you're talking about big decentralized chains, it's just maybe we achieve the tech eventually, and maybe that's one path to go down, but like we certainly can't do it right now. So it's been funny to watch the messaging from the Solana Foundation go from we're the monolithic, like we're gonna scale to 100,000 TPS. We don't need layer twos. Your layer twos are destroying your chain, and then immediately, like, I mean, they were saying that even earlier this year, and
Yeah,
now
yeah.
it's like, it's commonplace accepted. Everybody's on the layer two chain. So I think they're only doing this because they spent so much time shitting on the layer two idea that they just can't turn around and lose their pride like that. But I think I mean yeah, I think to most people it was pretty obvious eventually they would have to move towards this direction. And I actually think for what it's worth, like network extension is not a horrible name. It's only funny because like they're trying to rebrand it because they've shit on it so much. And I actually
Yeah,
think his
exactly.
points about like layer basically their layer twos being more like an app chain or something where it's less about well, one, he's saying that they don't need to inherit the security because nobody talks about Solana for its like security, which is one big advantage of ETH. But yeah, I don't know, it's so funny to me to see them entirely walking back all these ideas. And I
Dude.
think the app chain layer 2 thing makes quite a bit of sense. I think we're seeing that with I think layer 3s on ETH are like a little bit crazy, but that whole thesis of making your own kind of chain environment for an app for some apps makes a lot of sense. I mean, like Hyperliquid is a great example
Yep.
of one who's created their own chain to serve their own functionalities. And I think with the way that layer two development has gone to where it's quite easy to deploy a rollup now, I think we're probably going to see a lot more of that. So yeah, I mean, yeah, to sum it all up, I think it was obvious they were going to have to do this eventually. It's hilarious that they're trying to call it something else because it's the same thing. But three, I also think they're right. I think one, they have to do it, but it's actually quite nice to create a custom environment for certain apps, and certain
Totally.
apps and protocols are going to need that. So
Totally.
it's a positive improvement, I think, overall.
Yeah, on balance, I think it's the right thing, and it makes total sense. And look,
Yep.
it's not like it's a new thing. We saw this earlier this year when all the shitcoin volume was going nuts on Sol.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
breaking all the time, and again, if we think about this as like an actual network we want people to use, we still have nobody in crypto on a relative basis. It's still like nobody. It's still tiny. So the sort of throughput that has to be supported to really make this a thing has to be maybe 100x of what's happening today. So like even as good as Solana could be, there's no way we'd be able to scale without this. So like it's just the natural extension of things. But yeah, like you said, it is funny that the Soul folks just really love to yeah, I don't know, they just love to hate on things. They just
There's
love to hate on the
always
ETH community.
there's always like an excuse or like just something to deflect.
Yeah.
But it is what it
So
is. We all have bag bias.
yeah. So at the end of the day, they've done well for themselves.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
Mega ETH the Mega ETH founder had a tweet about it too, which is like, the Soul community at least let's see, let me stop being a tweet about this. Oh, gosh. about how at the end of the day, yeah, exactly. Like, you know, at the end of the day, the manlets at least have a good job like shilling and like able to do it. Whereas like the people that here is like if you criticize it, you get like crucified, and so like the criticism is like it's like this is not a great way to handle like criticism, and so the ETH maxis, I agree, it feels like Bitcoin maxis back back in the day, which is like you
Yeah,
say
the
anything about
laser
Bitcoin, they
eyes.
all just like come at you, and it feels a little bit like that now. So anyway,
Yeah.
I do think there's something to it for what it's worth, but anyways, at the end of the day, these things are all getting better. It's good for us, and so no issues there.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed. Speaking of things that are not getting better, though, should we talk about Kanto a little bit?
oh God,
Getting
yes,
exponentially worse.
definitely. Kanto. Maybe real quick. Kanto. Oh man, Kanto. There was a whole thing. God, where was this? Yeah, there we go. It was about a year ago, I believe. Maybe a year and a half ago now.
Oh
Okay, yeah,
no, I
January
remember
2023.
this.
There we go. Yeah, and like one day we woke up and everyone was shilling Kanto, right? On the timeline, I didn't even have it here tracking as like an L1 or something, but it's unclear what it was to me at the time. It was sort of this like DeFi chain or whatever,
They
but
were
that was
trying
a
to
kind
do
of
the
broad
RWA
idea.
thing, right?
And then they
Wasn't
went
that
down,
why
yeah,
everybody
yeah.
was pushing it?
They pivoted to that, but in the beginning it was just pure DeFi, where like they had a stablecoin called Note baked into it. And this, I think, is when they launched. Yeah, January, right here, exactly. So it just had it's a variant, a huge fund, just announced that they were buying a bunch of tokens, just open market, and they called it Cantofornia. They really called it some sort of like experimentation layer, blah blah blah. I kind of don't know what the hell's going on. I mean, I made some money on the token to be honest, but like I don't know what the hell's going on here. But it just went absolutely nuclear for a bit. Like let's just see here. This is or when they announced the peak here. So yeah, 1,000% in like basically a month. Not bad. um went absolutely nuclear, and then ever since then the team has been relentlessly dumping, and the sort of story has continued to like shift, and they kind of went down the RWA path, which is like taking stables or like taking in treasures and putting into the thing and all of that, and
Did they
this
ever
came out the
actually
other day.
do it though? I feel like I remember they said they had like a whole plan and it never actually happened. Does that
Is
sound
that right?
right?
I stopped following it, to be honest. So no, and Neo Finance is right. I remember that at least. um can't tell
Yeah.
me the two
Well,
votes. No,
funny
I have
enough,
no idea.
the Scott, who's the guy, the founder in the screenshot you just had up, he was probably the biggest dumper of them all. I mean, his dumping is like legendary. It's
Exactly.
just so
Just
crazy.
openly dumping. Oh God.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
So
this chain
just
is just
hilarious.
dead. This is one of the biggest flops. I mean, like everybody in the know was talking about Kanto when it was pumping. Like
Yes.
all the insiders, all the big traders, everybody was talking about Kanto, and they just, I mean, it's like a meme coin almost. Like, it's just
Yeah.
insane.
Agreed.
You really don't see dumping like that on like a layer one
No.
level, really. At
No.
least that I can think of. I mean, that was
Protocol
insane.
wise, maybe, but layer one level,
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
And
yeah,
especially when
yeah.
backed by venture. But now they just market bought tokens, so it's a little bit different. But still, you know. Yeah, and they have a native stablecoin called Note. I think that was the drama, right, Will? Which is like they ended up just taking out the backing for
Yeah,
it.
this week they removed the backing. It's now not backed. It was an over collateralized stablecoin and now it has no collateral. It's just so crazy. Like
Oh
somebody's
God,
got to go to jail over something that happened here. I don't know what specifically the crime is, but like somebody's got to go to jail.
I just don't know what happened here, to be
It's just
honest. But it
insane.
is. It's just crazy to see this because this was like definitely a thing for a hot minute, and sort of pivoted and changed stories a few times and all of that, and all of the team drama. You have a big venture fund involved. You have people just relentlessly shilling Cantofornia, and then it just goes like the sort of the nastiest way possible. um, and so yeah, it's just been hilarious to see. But yeah, I
It's
mean, even
so
Darian,
crazy.
right? Even variant folks still shilling Kanto here, you know.
Simpler times. I do
Yeah.
remember they had an NFT collection on Kanto called the Long Necks that I always liked. I hope those guys survive.
I don't know these. Hold on.
You don't remember the Long Necks?
I don't think so.
Kanto Long Necks. There they are.
Oh, these things.
Yeah.
They're kind of sick though. I like them. That's funny. Um, yeah. So nuts to see, but it's
Nuts.
quite funny. You know, it is classic crypto again,
Just
um,
more shenanigans.
and it's just so cooked now. I don't even know what the Kanto like market cap is, or like what's
It's like
Kanto at?
25 mil
25
FTV, I
mil.
think.
Oh my
Yep.
god, dude.
Yeah.
Jeez,
Crazy.
that's got to be
Like
down.
actually really insane. I mean,
Oh wow. Okay, so we're at like a 62 cents a peak, so we're down very bad. Wow. 96% over a year. Oh, that's funny. And the
brutal.
volume is just absolutely trash, I'm sure.
Yeah.
$124 of volume. Anyway, so
That's
um
insane.
crazy. Crazy. So I mean I don't I guess we'll see because just looking at these, you just don't really see alt L1, L2s go like this, APT, ARB, Atom, the rest of this, that's at least
I
they're
did
still
see
even Metis,
there's some huge unlocks coming up. Well, I mean there are every month, but maybe unpopular opinion. I think you actually said the opposite like 2 weeks ago. But there's a ton of all these huge unlocks coming up for these high FTV altcoins. Like
Yep.
unless they have been sold fully OTC and like it's not really the unlock that it looks like it is, like
Yep.
we don't have the
It
volume
looks
to
big.
sustain prices. Like
Oh, totally. So there was a table I saw on Twitter somewhere. Oh, here it is. Oh, this is just Sol, um, which is also heavy.
yeah,
But
nobody
yeah, there
wants to
was
talk about the Sol daily inflation numbers. That's another piece of Sol FUD.
yeah, you're right. I saw something about all the VC coin unlocks, and
Yeah,
I saw it and I
yeah,
was like,
yeah. I
geez,
saw the
that's
same
brutal.
thing.
Yeah. So
Wasn't there? There's like a token unlock site or something. I think that's where it
yeah.
was taken from.
Anyway, nuts. Okay,
Yeah.
here we go. Next 7 days.
I mean,
Down.
yeah, we're gonna need much more volume than we currently have to sustain prices on these
Just
guys.
APT leading the way, dude.
So classic.
Oh God, is Sui still up? Actually, I
I don't
totally
know.
forgot.
Sui is not one that I pay attention to.
Had a nice little thing, and now it
Not
looks like
bad.
we're bleeding out again. So yeah, probably was organic, huh? Right.
Yeah. Definitely wasn't perfectly timed with the unlock.
Oh God, hilarious. Well, that's kind of it. I mean, anything else going on in crypto right now that we should talk about? Maybe
I don't
just we
know,
can
man.
maybe real quick, just looking forward a little bit to
Yeah.
Q4. Just what's
Yep.
coming up. I mean, look, big picture, right? We are heading. We've been saying on the pod all summer that it's just kind of a boring time. It's a summertime. It sucks. People are just chilling. No one's really doing anything. It's kind of boring and gone. Post Labor Day, we come back, right? And we begin to think about what's going on. And historically, September is a shit month, right? We're going to dump. And so far, it's proven to be about right. It's not been great September so far. I think we're what, 52 now? No, 50, 57 maybe? Yeah, 57, 50. Okay, still, but it's not been a great month already, right? This is the month of September, right? Just like not feeling great. But, you know, when we look ahead, what do we have in front of us? We've got, a bunch of these catalysts coming, but really, the sentiment has broadly been that we're going to enter a nice little bull run soon, right? And so there's a ton of projects that are coming up that are about to come out, and people are speculating on when and who and how to think about these things. You've got, you know, old projects like Scroll, right, and like Linea that are coming out. Then you have sort of more hyped new layer ones like Barachain or maybe Monad. You've got things like Eigenlayer that are supposed to come out soon. Um, you know, projects like movement, perhaps the L2 world, maybe another one called Plume. There's all these things out there that are supposed to come out soon, and like it's interesting to kind of think about how that's going to play out or what's going to happen, right? Because the bet was that we're going to have a nice run up in Q4 because all these positive catalysts, and that's going to lead to an inflow of money, good condition to launch new tokens and launch new products out there. And if that doesn't come, then we'll see what happens. I think we watch day by day to understand what's happening. But we have a bunch of these things that are not confirmed when they're coming out or not. But like that's kind of like the broad list that people are thinking about, and we'll just see how it goes. I mean, I go back and forth on it, thinking that like I think you're going to have a little bit of pain for a few of them, but one of them has to go well before it really starts to go well. Because so far tokens are just down major. It's just down bad. Every VC launch is just down horrendous, and that's not a condition. It's not good for the exchange. It's not good for the consumer. It's not good for the projects, and it just leads to like a bad environment. And if that's the case, maybe we see everything get shifted, right? Because at the end of the year, also it's a tough time. Like after November, it's cooked. Because everyone's gone as well, right? So you really have, we're September now. We're almost, 1, 2, 3 months max. And that's not a lot of time to figure this stuff out, especially if we're really leaning on the election as a catalyst. That ends up being very tight, and then it gets pushed to Q1, and all of a sudden, people talking about this market trending this way for even longer starts looking more and more realistic. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting to see because there's so many like hyped projects that have raised a ton of venture money that are supposed to come out soon, right? And we'll see which way the market takes it, right? I mean, Eigen's a very expensive project, right? And it was pretty hyped for a while. I think it's unfortunately cooled off a bit. Unfortunately for them at least. Even in the BTC world, you've got things like Babylon Chain, the restaking stuff. Like those things are supposed to come out. And then of course the classic Alt L1s. A lot of Cosmos related stuff, I guess, is coming. Story just launched their testnet, so ostensibly they've got something cooking as well, right? But it's just a lot. I just don't know how the market eats all of those up. Like it feels like that would be tough to consume in a hot market, let alone in this absolute terrible one we've got. So I don't know, Will, what do you think about like how do you think about what's coming up and how to think about these new projects?
Um, yeah, I mean, I'll just speak bluntly. I think most of those, like primarily Bera and Monad, are the two that I've really paid attention to. I think if you're a trader, like it's hard to picture a world where those two tokens launch where they're supposed to, and you making any money if you're buying it after the launch. Like I think to your point, even in a bull market, say Bera launches at like $2 billion FTV or something, which I think is like probably on the low end of a lot of estimates.
Yep.
Maybe max you get a pump to like 4 or 5 billion, and that's just not exciting. That's not why we're in crypto. So it's not attractive to me, and I think that sentiment is shared with basically anybody who isn't, in the case of Bera, who isn't like an NFT holder who's been, waiting for the airdrop or whatever. So I think those two are in a really tough position, and we're seeing them delay launch because of it.
Over
So
and over.
clearly,
Yeah.
clearly they agree. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to liquidity for me. It's liquidity and volume, and right now we have neither. So
Yeah.
we need at
Yes.
least one of those, or these will all flop. Um, now,
Agreed.
I actually think that, like I was saying kind of earlier in the podcast, I think real yield decentralized finance protocols are one thing that can bring a ton of liquidity into the market. I mean, that's what we saw, after DeFi summer last cycle. Despite all those Ponzi's collapsing, there was a ton of liquidity on chains, and DeFi was the reason for it. It wasn't, people passing meme coins to each other back and forth. It was people who had money locked up, farming liquidity, farming yields, doing all of that, using yield-bearing assets as collateral to put money into more stuff. Um, that was where we got our big liquidity influx from. And I think until we have something change in either of those two categories, like it's just going to be tough. Um,
I agree. There's just no question it's tough.
yeah,
I mean, look at this run. I mean, we had a nice Q4, Q1 last year, right? Really, if you look at this, I mean, this is the time frame. This is literally a year ago, right here, when we started to have this absolute epic run up. And this ended where? This was March. Yeah, March we hit a local peak. We've just been kind of down only chopping since then. So this was October to March, right? October, which is what massive to my strong suit, but that's what 6 months, And it was like good, and then it really exploded. I think it's around the ETF passing, right? And just
Yep.
took off from there. And then the market took off behind. I really think that like alts, because even BTC going up is not everything. Like I don't think alts really ran until the second half of this thing. Um, and so it's just hard to understand how you could, because you had a good run up last time, right? Celestia was the classic example. Celestia went from what 2 to 20-ish billion in FTV over the course of 3-4 months. Ondo was like a 1 to 10 type thing, and there's a couple good ones, but you needed this type of volume and activity and action to get people hyped about this stuff. And barring that, I mean, we're still at 57. So you'd have to believe that this continues to rip upwards, to get there. And then even
Yeah.
then, it might not trickle down because it could just be BTC. It could not. It could also not trickle down to the alts. So you kind of have to believe maybe ETH goes up too, right? Which is, it's just hard to see how that happens
I
at
mean,
the
yeah,
levels that you need,
yeah.
to really sustain these things and the size of these unlocks are coming, or these tokens that are launching.
I think that's
Um,
why, like, I think that real yield DeFi is so important because you get assets like wrapped Bitcoin being used widely as collateral. So if that's going up, you just, mathematically are getting more liquidity on chain.
yep.
And even like stable coins, like, it'd be great to get, I know that Tether's been killing it in revenue, but be great to get more stable coins flowing around.
No
And I think
question.
DeFi is a great source for that too.
No question. I mean, I think we do need it because, look, ultimately, what you need is a functioning economy, right? Where there are people providing some sort of value, in this case, liquidity, right? And on the other side, using that for something else that they want to do, right? So, like, that's the sort of basis of this whole thing. And then you have a functioning economy, everyone's making money, and there's usage for this stuff. When it's pure just degeneracy in the casino, at some point, right? Like, after a hard weekend in Vegas, at some point you wake up, bag's empty, the bottle's empty, and you're like, "Fuck, I gotta go home." There's nothing left, and like that's kind of what it feels like at this point in the meme coin casino, with Pump being the last, like, someone pumped out fun. Someone found the, like, the extra bag in the couch to like keep you going for a couple hours, but like it was done. It's cooked after that, so
Yep.
it does feel like we're in that zone, and we'd have to. Like you said, I think it is important for the real DeFi to come back because we just need people to use this again and like people to make money and show that this is a real economy versus just speculative gambling, And so anyway, we'll see how it goes. So I think, again, I think the mood is probably somber, but I think ultimately, like, I'm still pretty hyped about it all. I'm still pretty positive.
Yeah.
It's
I
just,
haven't been selling my bags by any means.
yeah,
It's
me
just
neither.
it feels boring. That's
Yeah, I
really the
agree with
big
that.
sentiment.
It's just timing. I think that's the only question. And like you said, there's two risks, right? There's price and timing risk. I think price risk, I'm not that worried about, to be honest. It's the timing that I'm worried about. It's like, man, the longer this drags out, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But
But I mean, I do think the fact that both of us are kind of getting nervous on the time side is like probably pretty indicative of maybe it's been long enough.
yep,
Uh, I think like counter trading general market sentiment is a pretty good strategy. So like, and if
totally.
if we're
Agreed.
getting nervous, I think everybody else is. So
100%. The actual go to move right now is just buy a fat bag and just, like,
yeah,
expect that we're gonna rip. And it's probably I would say it's probably a decent bet. At least
yep,
the odds will be priced in your favor. So anyway, cool. Well,
cool.
that's it for, I think, for this week. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch y'all next week.
Yes, sir.